Hello, everyone. I welcome you to this workshop titled Office Politics Unspoken and Unwritten. Friends, through this particular workshop, I would like to walk you through a story and help you become a bit more aware of the various office politics aspects that one may actually not really pay attention to, and what would be the most likely consequences of not being aware of it. And this one is for any one of you who are looking for some kind of support and are finding their careers being stuck because of their lack of ability to deal with office politics. So let's get started. My intention, as I mentioned here, is to share with each one of you. This one is through a story, because office politics, actually, there's no lot of literature around this one. Neither it is a process which one could study or take steps. Rather, it's an interplay of some unwritten, unspoken rules and the flow of power which flows while each one of us in a given organization are in a role equipped with a bit of an authority depending on the kind of role we are in. But despite of that, having no written form or a set process, we often find ourselves enmeshed or kind of caught up or trapped into this thing called office politics. And this typically also happens with most of those emerging women leaders who I cater to, and this one is exclusively for them, where they find themselves having worked for more than 10 years of putting their 10 years or, like, let's say, more than a decade into their job, finding it difficult to move up the ladder, finding themselves being frustrated with either their bosses, their subordinate, their difficult clients, or even people who they have a dotted line relationship with in the context of office. And office politics has such prevalence, like it's just like air around us. None of us can see it, but it's everywhere, and we are all breathing in it. So in a workplace environment, this is the most inevitable thing that we all will come across. And these are the aspects of it which, if we do not pay attention to, the consequences can be such that it can have a direct impact on our professional growth. And this is also one of the reasons why most of us, as emerging women leaders, when we hit a time in our career spanning more than 10 years, we find ourselves in such tricky, conflicted situations. So let's get ahead and learn how we become aware of these aspects. And this one, I'm going to share this with you through a story. The story that I bring to you is from a real life case that I had worked with. And this was actually one of my first few cases where we worked in depth on office politics. Because more often, what really happens is that the cases that I, as a coach, help my clients with are an interplay of self-discovery, self-development, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, imposter syndrome, and stuff like that, along with the way office politics is. But this one was straight out of it, and through the story, you will learn why it was. So let's see it through the eyes of Rachel. So in our story, we have these characters. We have Rachel, we have Tony, who's a senior director. Meet Lisa, she's a senior manager. David, he's the CEO. And here are the board of directors. And for confidentiality purposes, I would also like to mention here that all the names are changed Plus, while I had coached this person by name Rachel, in reality, what I'm presenting to you there is a difference. It's not like the exact story or the exact case that I'm presenting to you. While I have taken the essence of that particular case, but most of it here is with an intention to make it easier, simpler for any one of you who aim or intend to understand office politics and its aspects and what really happens when we do not really pay attention to that. So, coming back to our story, these are our characters of the story that you're about to learn. And this is the project Star. So, in the story, since now we know the names, let me add some more details here. There's a project by the title, it goes by the title of Star. And this project has been initiated in an organization by their CEO, David. For this new project, David has hired Rachel. She's from another location where this organization is headquartered, meaning she comes from another location in the various branches this organization had. So she comes in from a different location while David is operating out of the headquarters. But he hold this project Star very close uh, to one of his initiative as part of his performance role and his vision for the organization. And for this, instead of hiring somebody or promoting someone internally, he planned to hire a person who will lead this project. So Rachel was hired as a project lead for Project Star. Now we have Tony, who is the person part of this project. He's the key, I should say, project sponsor. While this project is a brainchild of David, the main authority of running this program, in fact, the department or the function service line head is Tony. He's a senior director. And David has assigned Rachel as a project leader, but the overall authority about the whole project and how it unfolds and get launched is given to Tony. Then we have Lisa, who's a senior manager, who is part of the project Star, but she does not report to any of these. She is not reporting to David. She does not report to Tony, neither to Rachel. But her presence in here is because she's part of the project Star. And she's going to work with all three of them. Rachel is reporting to David, but is working with Tony and Lisa. None of them are reporting to each other. They are all part of the project. She's the project lead. She has a set of team members who she is working closely with to make sure the project is launched and the milestones, the deadlines are met. While Tony is the project manager, or rather program manager under which this project comes, Lisa is just part of the project. She's a senior manager with the firm, and she also had some other projects to take care of, and she's also part of this particular project titled Star. Now, after the project Star has been launched, it's been a year now. So this project had a successful launch, and they also met their first milestone. The deadlines were met, the launch was successful. However, after a year or maybe 13 to 14 months into the project launch, the project started to develop some issues and challenges, most of which were initiated by Tony. So it's not like he created them on purpose, but rather after the first milestone was met, after the project was launched, 1 year after that, Tony proposed a complete change in the scope. There were few major decisions taken on the team members and also on the budget. This was the three reasons why this project entered into a conflict zone. A conflict zone in which you would see now how Tony, Rachel, and Lisa were enmeshed into. It was a cold conflict, and all three of them were not really expressing it, but they were vibes as none of them approves of what the other does. There was some bit of a rapport Rachel and Lisa shared, and they would often at times even gossip about Tony. But Tony has no friendly rapport either with Lisa and neither with Rachel. So the conflict continued. It went to such an extent that there were some attrition in the projects. The project seems to have taken a completely new turn, and the conflict continued to brew. Now, as a project leader, Rachel, the this particular opportunity for her, if we look at it at an individual level, she had an opportunity to move up the ladder, and this project was a uh, key area of that could help her really move up or develop her career in this particular organization. But Rachel could not understand this, and as she had little awareness on the various aspects of office politics, she got more into the conflict zone with Tony, and the conflict then cascaded to such an extent that the project saw further major changes, that towards the end of it, Lisa was no longer part of it. Even though her contribution were well appreciated, she, as a senior manager, was removed from it. Now, Lisa, at an individual level, was already part of several other projects. So for her, and her contribution in this project was like that of a member. So it didn't really made a huge difference in her career trajectory because she already had established her expertise, and this was one such project. Whereas for Rachel, this project and the growing conflict and her inability to read or to understand the various aspects of this project and the people involved in it, the relationships, the conflict, the unwritten rules, the unspoken words, the vibes, and the many effective strategies to manage stakeholder, which were completely missing from Rachel's side, led to a very different consequence for Rachel's career. One thing, when I was coaching Rachel on this, that I typically usually ask most of my clients who are into such situations, tricky ones, was to draw, and I've pulled this diagram from there, where if you look at this, this is in red, which kind of identifies the core people who are stakeholders of Rachel, which she failed to understand in the first instance. While she has been hired by David, what Rachel failed to understand that Tony, who she does not share a very good rapport, or for that matter, Lisa, with whom she share a good rapport, there was a huge difference because Tony, his relations with David, which Rachel failed to understand and therefore couldn't influence her position up the ladder. While it turns out that Tony and David were real good friends outside even their professional roles. They knew each other very well for past several years, and therefore their impersonal relations, along with their working together in a firm with their different positions, influenced each other more than Rachel could to either Lisa or Tony. With this advantage, Tony somehow used his influence in making changes in the projects or go about making those major, sometimes amendments which were not called for, but he continued to play around with his power, or rather, I should say, misuse of it. This is a very common scenario and experiences people do have when they enter into such complicated, tricky projects. But oftentimes, failures come when we fail to understand the person who we may not directly report to, like the case of Rachel. What influence this person holds with actually the person who's at the helm of it, who's the major uh, authority among the entire chain of hierarchy. While if you really look at it, nobody's really reporting on to David. However, David had hired Rachel. She has her counterpart in the location who she reports to, who would manage her performance appraisal. But that's the written part. The unspoken and unwritten part is her image, her perception with Tony, and this her good rapport with Lisa is no way helping her. While Lisa is a senior manager, but Lisa does not have any influence with Tony nor with David. While Tony and David are good pals, even out of the office hours, and share a very good relationship. So, in a way, they would bring their camaraderie, their bond, even to the work that they do. And as being men, they have their own preferences. So if in this given case, when the conflict was running amidst Rachel, Lisa, and Tony, while Lisa was removed and it didn't really impacted her so much, Rachel and her lack of not being able to understand this unwritten, unspoken influence that was playing around costed her job. And on result of this unawareness, this incorrect or faulty approach with conflicts, specifically in a tricky situation and project like this one, her ineptness to understand Tony and his influence with David led to Rachel eventually losing this job. This is the story. It ended with Rachel being fired from the job. And this story is an example of all these key aspects of office politics being played out in a single project case scenario. If you really pay attention to the way things worked out, you will realize that unless Rachel was made aware of these key aspects, little did she realize where she was going wrong and what was really derailing her career. Something most of us, when we are into the phase of mid-management positions, we may not be fully as senior as to be called a leader or an expert, but we are moving up there. And this crucial period is where you actually need to take a step back and make yourself aware. A lack of awareness would cost you your job, and that's exactly what happened in case of Rachel. She was fired by the end of the second year, while like Lisa, she didn't had any other project because she was just a one person hired by David. No one came to her rescue. And she went into a very, uh, I should say, a deep emotional distress, in fact, because this losing of job came in at a time for Rachel while she was battling some other challenging issues back home. I was able to support her through my coaching program, Journey of Self. And it took us, in fact, more than 5 months because usually the program is for 2.5 or 2 months. But since Rachel was in real bad shape, I had to extend it and add some more goals so as to support her holistically and help her rebound with resilience. Friends, what Rachel did is not right or wrong. It's just the lack of awareness. And I think most of us share some part of Rachel inside us. Unless we really understand the key aspects of office politics, it's very highly likely we may end up in similar scenarios that Rachel did. So while I supported Rachel, I would just want to take this opportunity and invite you. If in case somewhere the story resonates with yours, it may not, or it may remind you of somebody who's in need of some support or help, I urge you to reach out and connect. Had Rachel not connected with me, or for that matter, any other coach, I'm sure she would have really jeopardized her career uh, beyond repair. Because sometimes time is as crucial as taking the right steps. Because sometimes if we really missed on those times and opportunities, it's really difficult to later on repair it. So just like Rachel, if you feel that you find yourself stuck in your career, you're not really able to make out what's really is wrong, there's some cold conflicts you share with some of the characters like Tony or people you have around, you're not a very politically intelligent person, you find yourself overwhelmed with this, there's help available. Reach out, and without compromising on your integrity, let me assist you with strategies so that you excel, thrive, and shine wherever you want. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And I'm sure if you really like this, please do share your thoughts, your what is it that you took away from this, or is there anything that you would seek my help? Because I know there's not enough literature on office politics and to the niche I serve, but I always look forward to hear back and share with my own share of failures in this particular subject, in this particular concept. And then with the support of my coach, the way I bounce back, I would like to extend that help to you as well. Thank you.